Hi, this is Colin from Watch Off the Cuff. Today I'm going to talk about loupes, what loupes you consider buying, things to consider in their use, and your various options in terms of using a loupe effectively in your own watchmaking. So let's get right into it. Okay, in the meantime, I grabbed a visor, so I'll remember to talk about using visors as well in terms of using a loupe for watchmaking. Okay, so the first thing is you're looking to buy a loupe. What loupe do you buy? So let's first of all talk about how we identify what loupe is by its number and therefore its magnification. I have a cheat sheet with me so I don't mess it up as we go through some of the versions. Okay, so first of all, when you go to buy a loupe, it's going to be identified by a number. So if I take a look at this one here, it says 2.5. Now 2.5 is not the magnification. 2.5 is the focal length in inches, so that if I were to use this loupe up my eye, the object will be in focus 2.5 inches away, which makes sense because if we're sitting here as a watchmaker here, I'm at my desk, the point is we rest our forearms. I just broke that already. We rest our forearms on the bench, so we're up close here, so we have a lot of stability with our hands, and you can see our face is very close, and I think I've got probably a number 3 on here right now. You can see 3 inches is a reasonable distance for me to be away and close and manipulate whatever items I'm doing for the watchmaking. So that's the first thing. So then the question is, okay, so what does 2.5 mean? And what should I consider? So I pulled a 2.5 because a 2.5 is probably the most common. If you were going to buy one loupe today, it would be probably a 2.5. Now, a 2.5 is, I have my cheat sheet right of you, typically between 4 and 5 times magnification. So depending on what it is, typically a 25 millimeter loupe. This is a 25. The more expensive ones are typically 25. The less expensive ones are 23.5 millimeters. That's the diameter of the lens. It changes depending on the focal length, what the actual magnification is. I use a plastic loupe that clips onto my glasses, and it is, for me, a number 3. That's a 4.4 times magnification. So we're always in that kind of like 4 times. Now, me personally, I prefer to use, instead of a 2.5 all the time, I use a number 3 for general work. Remember, if the magnification is very high, we start to lose our field of vision. I can see less. So for me in everyday stuff, I prefer a number 3. I can see a little more of what I'm looking at, and the magnification for me works just fine. I switch to a number 2, so then I go below a 2.5 to a number 2, which gets into the 5. And I think on the plastic loupe that I have, no, this one, a number 2 is actually a number 5 fairly use. A number 2 is universally a 5 times magnifier. The one that I have is actually 5 times at 2, which is my alternate, which I have right here. So I just switch back and forth. The number 2 at 5 times magnification I use to check spacing or to set hands because it's very precision work. Or I'm doing things like putting in the pallet fork or setting the balance on a watch or whatever. When I really want to zone in, then that's what I essentially do. So the only other thing I would consider if you were going to look at what am I going to buy like bare minimum, you could look at getting a 2-step right here. This is often listed as a number 1. This one in the 2-step is a 12 times magnifier. And sometimes the number 1s are listed as 10. So you're literally going to go 1 inch away. So it's very difficult to do a lot of work with this. It's more of an inspection tool. So you're going to be 1 inch away from the piece of work, and you're going to be anywhere between 10 and 12 times magnification, depending on the exact one that you get. So then the other thing while I'm waving it around here is a wire. So I would say starting, you have a couple of options. Number 1, get a wire, right? And if you haven't seen that before, for everybody, it ends up going on your head like this. And then you don't have to like squint and jam it into your eye socket. You can also pull it out of the way. So before I needed reading glasses, I would just use a loupe, and I would have several wires. The wires are inexpensive. I sell them in my shop for $8.50 a piece. And don't be shy when you get them. Like I clipped this one shorter, I think, and bent it. Like you just wrench them around to make it work for you. Like they're not precious. So I would have several of these, and they just literally just wrap around the end of the thing, put them on there, and away you go. So there's your wire. Okay, so we talked about, so if you were going to today starting out buy one loupe, buy a 2.5, it'll be a catch-all. If you want a little bit better field of view, and then when you get into precision work, want a little bit more magnification than 2.5, I ended up settling into my everyday life. I use a number 3 and a number 2, and I switch back and forth depending on what I need. 80% of the time I'm on a number 3. And then if you don't have any other inspection method, like I have a small microscope or whatever, you may want to, for inspection, get a number 1, which would be 10 to 12 magnification. The only thing you have to remember is the higher the magnification, the less light it captures, the lens captures. So you have to have a very well lit bench to do this, which is another reason why sometimes it's not comfortable to like go crazy wearing this all the time. It can be frustrating. You're trying to like see it well enough. You're trying to get enough light on the object to make sure you can drive it through that level of magnification. Okay, so we've talked about that. Now let's talk about the levels of loupes. So we talked about some plastic. There's some aluminum bezel. There's some fancier ones. The 3 basic levels are a basic plastic, and they can run anywhere between $15 and $25 each, depending on the configuration, or if it's a 2-step like this. I think something like this is about 25. Something like this would be about 15. I'm talking Canadian dollars because I'm in Canada. Anyway, so you would get a wire. You could get a $15 2.5 loupe, and you'd basically be in business. If you want to get fancy, you could add the number 1 for the 10 to 12 times magnification, and you're going to add a wire. So $8.50 for a wire, maybe $15 or 15 to 25 for a plastic, and then you can decide whether you're going to do a single loupe or do 2. I mean, what I basically have on my bench today is, I guess I count now, 4 loupes, 3 loupes. I have the 2, the 3, and this is the 12 times magnification. And I basically have, that's what I have on my bench basically. So if you were going to go that way, then that'd be the way. Okay, back to the numbers. So we go back to the plastic one, $15 to $20. We can go up to an aluminum bezel. The optics, these ones actually, the lens is coated, anti-reflective. This is very nice. This is probably my biggest best seller in terms of things. It's a middle of the road, very high quality. And you're not paying like luxe price for it, whatever. You're looking at about $35 for that one. If you like the looks, you could go to something like this. This is a very nice premium Horatech loupe, nice anodized aluminum bezel instead of just a generic kind of knurled bezel on it that holds in the lens itself. And that's very nice there, about $65 Canadian. Okay, so using a loupe. So the first thing is, let's talk about the visor. So the disadvantage with using a visor, and if you have a visor and it works for you, that's great. The problem is that when you're going to look through the visor, you don't have a switch of focal length to move apart from your bench, which might be, and then to a parts tray, which might be 10 or 15 centimeters away. It will go out of focus. It's only going to keep in focus what you're working on, in your immediate area, which is the benefit of the loupe. So the idea is with the loupe, I can put this on, and then I can, with my other eye, look and see the tray. So I can go close. I'm just a couple of inches away. It's in focus. Then I can look up, I look through the other eye and put it in the tray. So the idea as well is when you're using a loupe is that you need to put the loupe on your dominant eye. So that is when you close either eye, what shifts the image or not. And like archers do it, whatever they want to figure out. When I close one eye, I want this to be dominant. So you got to figure out, I'm sure there's a million videos of the best way to determine your dominant eye. But anyway, you put it on your dominant eye. And that means that if you were to close your eye, the image wouldn't shift, right? Which would be a problem if we're doing precision work. However, if you're using a loupe, best practice is to not close your eye. So all you literally do is have this on all the time when I'm on the bench, and I just shift my attention between my looped eye or my non-looped eye, in this case on my glasses. The reason is if I spend all day like this, closing one eye to look through the loupe, by the time I'm going to start to distort my face over hundreds of thousands of hours. It's a little weird at first, but it is proper form to simply shift your attention and not to close your eye to focus on looking through the loupe. Okay, so another thing, so we talked about those. There is another kind of loupe if shifting your attention, or the problem is we're using, monocular vision. You can lose a little bit of depth perception. So I have this loupe, which is sort of interesting. It has a hole in the bottom. So what happens is I've got this on, say I had it on a wire. I use my, split my attention, and I'm looking through here. And then when I go to place the part in the tray, I look up and I can look through the hole. And now I have binocular vision. I have nice depth perception to move the part through. So there is a challenge when you have reading glasses. Well, we talked about that as well. And that is right now, and I need to go to the optometrist really bad. And I did have somebody who worked at an optometrist's office make a comment on another YouTube video about solving my problem, because I think in another video I was complaining. So the issue becomes, if I'm here working here and I look and I'm working 2 inches away, I grab this very small part, I look up. Regular standard prescription reading glasses have a focal length of about 18 centimeters. I should have converted that to inches before I thought of it. Anyway, but about this far away. So between here, after I stop looking through the loupe, and before it becomes back into focus here, I literally have a blind spot where a very small part is literally blurry. And sometimes I don't know whether it's in my tweezer at all. So that can be a little bit of a problem if you're aging and you're like me and your eyes are changing and you have to go to reading glasses. But they did say that if you go to your optometrist and explain what you're trying to do, they can make some progressive stuff. They've got to do this amazing thing with optics to get rid of that particular problem. Geez, I mean, I ran along pretty good there. I think that is it. If anyone has any questions about loupes, by all means, let me know. Oh, and I didn't talk about specifically the clip-on ones, so we talked about pricing. These clip-on ones are the same. Like, they're like maybe $20 Canadian or whatever. And again, it's a great solution. You just clip them on and off your glasses. I have a dedicated pair that I use in the shop, and I have other ones that I use for other things, but the clip-on are great. And I only recently added them to the store because I had a hard time finding. I bought mine years and years ago, and I couldn't find them for purchase anywhere. So I was able to secure them as well. I think I'm gonna end up stopping the video and forgetting. As always, thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel, there is a membership tier that supports the channel for like 99 cents a month. It helps me keep going here. And as always, thanks for your support, and thanks for shopping watchoffthecuff.com. I'll ship all over the place, so even if you're not in Canada, please do not worry. I will ship wherever you are. Mostly, I should say wherever you are. Like Europe's no problem, Australia no problem, New Zealand, where else? US no problem. Anyway, but anyway, if you wanted to get something and you're not in one of those countries, by all means reach out and we'll see if we can help you, because some of this stuff is very hard to find. I think that's it. Until next time, cheers.